So, how do you deal with a toxic academic advisor or supervisor? This is a real problem. There is a lot of negative behaviors. It's just really politicking that happens within academia. And it's well known across most people that have had any academic experience that this happens. And you should be aware of what's going on before you go into it. But then as well, you need to understand how to actually deal with this. And that's actually what I want to talk about today, in terms of how to deal with it. I can't give you all of the answers, but I think that this has been helpful for me. I really can't give you all of the answers, and I'm not that good at all of this kind of stuff. I just want to give you that forewarning. So, what's going on in academia is that we've got a competitive marketplace, right? That's really what it is. There's a competition for ideas, and the goals are very ambiguous, and yet there is very high standards, and nobody knows how to do those things. So we're in a very stressful environment. People are trying to actually do certain aspects of their job, but they don't know how to do it. We also have different goals that people are setting, right? So some people set very long-term goals in terms of working towards something. I tend to do that. I tend to do much bigger projects that have, I hope have a larger pan in the long run, or larger sort of outcomes in the long run. However, it takes a special kind of person to do this kind of stuff because it takes such a long time to get there. Most people get stressed out and they don't want to be part of it. So there is that aspect of it. So people sort of do, short-term things, but there's also a lot of like gaming that happens. There's a ton of gaming that happens, and everybody is well aware of this kind of stuff. Whether, putting your name on your paper or somebody else's paper, which is like super common in sort of the supervisor's role, that they just put their name on the paper and not really do any work. Like that is one sort of thing. Or the expectation that you have to work all the time, and yet they're not working all this kind of stuff, right? Like it's just kind of nonsense, and being sort of mean and angry and all that kind of things. So, how do you deal with this? So first of all, if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massack. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for to help you out. So go check out the reciprocity platform. I'm trying to build it so it makes our life easier. It is far better than most alternatives now. I am confident in that. It's working really cool in terms of like getting editing on your work and stuff like that. I use it all the time. It's way better. I've sort of tried different alternatives, and it's working really cool. So what do you do in terms of dealing with academic supervisors? First of all, really avoid getting into that position, right? So do a tremendous amount of screening. What I've noticed is that people have been in the academic game a long time, get very good at screening and paying attention to very subtle clues of seeing what's going on behind the scenes, right? They look at like body language, for example. They sort of spot like, oh, this person just didn't sort of say something, or this person is being a little aggressive. Like there is little moments of body language that you have to pay attention to. And it's really hard to pay attention to those kind of things, but it's going to help you a lot in terms of getting through the sort of toxicity and sort of screening out what's going on. You don't want to just look at publications. That's the wrong thing that you want to do. The reason is that publications are totally gamed. There's a huge sort of game behind it. Everybody kind of knows this kind of stuff, right? Like there's lots of that goes on behind the scenes. There is a ton of work, and I'm not diminishing anybody's, work to get there, but there is a lot of sort of competitive gaming that happens behind the scenes. And so don't look at just publications. That is kind of a weak signal, I think. What you want to look at is even those sort of weaker signals of people paying attention, looking at reputation, asking around, talking to different people in terms of what their reputation is and what they're doing. Are they supportive? You want somebody that's rigorous. You really do want somebody that's rigorous, but you also want them that's supportive. What if you're in this environment, right? So I think, to be honest, I think the best thing is just kind of having an open conversation, first of all, and trying to have that open conversation with the other person just to sort of tell you how you feel. And if that does not work out, right, if you have that sort of open conversation and it doesn't work out and you've tried a couple times, I would recommend just cutting it off. That's an important thing to learn. It's just being like, okay, these people are not going to change. It's not going to get to anywhere, and just minimize contact with that. And I know that sometimes, with those particular individuals, and, it's just going to make your life easier because there is a lot of people in this world that don't necessarily look out for your self-interest. And so you have to be very much aware of that. And then you just don't have time for that, honestly. And I'm getting to that point where I'm like, I just don't have time for that in my life. I really don't want any of that anxiety and stress and all that kind of stuff. It's already demanding enough. So why would I want somebody like that in my life that is going to make me feel bad every time that I actually see them? So that's a super important thing, is remembering that you can cut that off and go find somebody. Go talk to the chair of your department, or go talk to somebody, a senior professor, and see some advice of actually how to deal with this. Now, often it is the senior professor that is like that, and they're putting all that pressure on you and making you feel bad, right? And the reason why they have gotten to become the senior professor is sort of politics and things like that. So what I would recommend is build a group of people around you that is supportive, not just, family. It's family and friends and everything to get you through. Now, there is a moment where you should sort of think about dealing with the toxicity, right? So early on, you can think about sort of switching. It really is the best thing that you could do. But later on, and a lot of you are sort of thinking about this and you're farther in the process, just finish that project that you're working on and then sort of distance yourself after that. That's what I think a lot of people end up doing, and I know it's hard to do that kind of stuff, but there's a certain amount of sanity that you need in your life, and it's super hard. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's very hard to find people that you can work with. So many people have different sort of ways of working and how they view the world and all those kind of things. It's very, very hard. You will find that as you go through. It might seem really easy early on, but as you go through, it gets harder to sort of know what's going on. And what you'll do is you'll realize that there are certain groups, because what ends up happening, right? It's a competitive marketplace, right? So if people are really easy to work with and they're talented and, that they can do a lot of stuff, then everybody wants to work with them, particularly if they're senior supervisors, right? Or very senior people. Everybody wants to work with them because they've seen it all. They know what they're doing. And so they're in hot demand. Nobody can work with them. It's like this is typical, like what's called the Matthew effect in science. You can read about it. It's all sorts of cool, interesting things. We actually study the science of science within, innovation. That's one branch of the people that do this kind of stuff. So what I would recommend is for you to, just like everything else, create those boundaries, right? Making sure that, hey, I am respected. I'm a good person. I know what I'm about, and that's what I am, and keep those boundaries. And, people sort of violate those boundaries, you tell them. And then if that does not work, then you go and, you sort of cut off that relationship and you find something else. You don't want to keep sticking with something that's a bad relationship. It's just like, typical relationship advice. It's not going to be helpful. It's going to be harmful for you in the long run. Remember that. Keep going, but find people that are supportive and going to help you out. But, I really am very keen on this at this point, like just minimizing, and then, they might not get it, but minimize contact at that point. You got so many more better things to do in your life than dealing with that toxicity and dealing with all of the stress and anxiety, because you know what's going to happen. You know what happens. So if you have that feeling that you know that it's just not right, it's not working, that there is sort of gaming or you know strategizing in the background, you feel all of that kind of stuff. You feel it. You know what's going on, right? Like you absolutely know what's going on, and you can see, you know, eventually you kind of see this kind of stuff. If you have those spidey sense, man, it just honestly, it's the best thing for you, and then go on from there. All right, so hopefully this helped you out. And then if that doesn't work, right, you do all of those kind of things, still does not work, switch universities. Really, it's okay to switch universities. And you might want to even talk to like somebody higher up in the university to sort of tell them what's going on, because there's a lot of the stuff that's going on. A lot of people in universities know about this stuff, about certain, you know, departments and those kind of things, and they might be helpful in terms of navigating this. But really, it is that like, I got to look out for myself. I've got boundaries. And then from there, you know, I can extend. So first of all, I really screen. And then I set boundaries, right? And then from there, you know, if you're happy in this relationship and it's working out, then that's great. If it's not, then, you know, cut off and go find something else. You're so much better than, you know, than this. Nobody should put up with any sort of crap in their life. Everybody should be acting like civilized human beings where they're nice to each other and, you know, all those kind of things, right? And they respect to what they're doing. Doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen, you know, in an ideal world. That's what we should be living in, but you should be respectful, and you should respect yourself. That's honestly it. And then cut off those relationships when it's not working out. All right. I know it sounds cruel, but it's the best way to deal with it. Just like every other relationship that you have in your life. Work through it, first of all. Screen hard, heavily. Work through it as much as you can. You know, talk about it. If that doesn't work, go find somebody else. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. All right. Bye-bye. Hopefully this was helpful. Give me one of these. Bye.